Hi, I'm joined on today's show by Helen Phillips. So a massive welcome to you, Helen, and thank you for joining me.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Tony. It's good
You're
to see
more than
you
welcome.
during lockdown.
Likewise. Helen is a business coach from Mustard Advisors and an expert sailor. So Helen, for those people who don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about you, what you do, and how your journey started and how it's led to your current profession?
Yeah, so I'm a Mustard advisor, and we work with owner-managed businesses, helping them to achieve stable, sustainable growth, so they can have more time, more money, and more fun. I'm an engineer by training, and I started 9 years ago as a young graduate electrical engineer in the steelworks, perhaps the first woman ever to be an engineer in that plant. And I was very lucky really with my career because I had the opportunity to get involved at a very young age with working with main board directors, working in all sorts of different businesses. And it gave me a really good experience around it before I became production manager. So I was with Allied Steel and Wire for 15 years. And during that time, I was very lucky to be able to get an opportunity to work with main board directors. Initially, I started out as a manufacturing manager, but then they asked me to get involved in some projects involving setting up new businesses and also looking at the business processes. A process is the same whether it's an engineering process or whether it's a business process. What we were doing was looking at the processes, making them more efficient and making them more customer focused.
I think I've come from, I don't know if you are aware, but I've got an engineering background as well. That was my original career. So I think, I don't know if you agree with this, but I think there's a huge amount that can be taken from being an engineer. You have a logical way of thinking. You like to break down processes or things into component parts. You like to know how they work. So I think that can be applied to other disciplines, which is what you've just given an example of. So
yeah, and I was talking the other day, somebody, processes, inputs and outputs and controls, and it applies just as well to, when you're controlling something in a rolling mill as it does to a business. You've got some inputs that you're manipulating to get the desired results, and then you're monitoring those results, changing the controls to be able to get what you're looking for.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think I've seen obviously how I apply my previous sort of experience, if you like, as an engineer into what I do. And I think that what has helped me, I don't know if you find the same, but you have to understand things yourself first. And then once you do that, it's much easier to explain it to obviously your clients. And certainly that's the way I find it. So you can break sometimes complex things down into simplistic terms, and as a result of that, then you can get your message across much easier.
Yeah, and there's a wealth of business advice out there, and so a big part of what we do is looking at the current thinking and the new ideas and distilling it into a practical tool that people can use. And anybody can go out there and read a book, but reading the book is one thing. Actually doing what that book says and making it work in your business is quite often a little bit more difficult. And so that's, we will do some knowledge transfer with our clients, and then we'll say, okay, well, what does this mean in your circumstances for your business? And we'll help them to figure out how they can apply what they've learned in their business, and most importantly, hold them to account to make sure that they actually deliver on that value that they've just learned about.
No, I agree. I think that there is so much information out there these days. So we can find out information out on more subjects, but if you like, transferring that to your own knowledge and taking action on it is a totally different thing. I think as a coach, the accountability factor is massive, because if you haven't got anybody to be accountable for, sometimes you as the individual are not the best person to hold yourself accountable for. So
oh no, and we all like to be comfortable, don't we?
We do, yes. So in terms of the way that Mustard work, what difference would you say that Muster brings to the coaching business compared to others out there at the moment?
I think the first thing is in terms of the qualification process for becoming a mustered advisor in the first place, because this is an unregulated industry. People can get perhaps coaching qualifications or maybe sales training qualifications, but there is no qualification for business advisor or management consultant. And so to become a mustered advisor, you need to have been there and done it yourself. So you need to have a fairly serious career, either for a corporate or otherwise run your own business. The next thing is that not everybody can advise. So, people may be very bright and they may know their stuff, but advising is a different thing from lecturing or teaching or just knowing it yourself. So you've got to be really good at listening. You've got to be good at empathy. You've got to be good at adapting your communication to be able to make what you're saying make sense for your clients. And the other thing is that you have to have a burning desire to help.
Absolutely,
Not just doing this because it's I mean it is a robust process and it's very well researched, and that will give our clients the confidence that we can deliver the results that we say we're going to do because we use the same process, so we're going to get the same results. But the fundamental thing is you have to have a burning desire to help, so that helping your clients is more important than anything else.
This is a theme that's come across. The people I've chatted to recently have all been advisors in some capacity. And that is coming across loud and clear, that you have to have that burning desire to help others to be successful in your, obviously, role as an advisor or as a coach. I
Yeah.
think you also need to know your stuff, and you need to be able to relate that to individuals. But the one thing I'm taking so far is that you have to want to help other people, because sometimes it is hard work. I know that. And also we have many challenges along the way. But if you get a great deal of satisfaction from what you're doing and seeing other people being helped by the work that you do, then it's a huge motivator.
Yeah, I just love what I do, and I love seeing the impact it has on people, their business, their lives. When you take the weight off their shoulders, and that's I love what I do so much that sometimes I forget that we have to charge for it. So
I honestly believe if tomorrow fees come to an end, then maybe I wouldn't do so much, but I would certainly carry on doing what I'm doing.
no, I love what I do, can't help it.
So have you got any examples that you can share with us in terms of the people that, or the businesses that you've helped so far?
Well, I'm an engineer at heart, so whilst the mustard process works with any business, because it's essentially about helping you go from being good at what you do to being good at running a business, the businesses that I most enjoy working with, where I've had the most success, have been businesses which are around technology or process. So my first client was an IT managed services provider. He wanted to spend more time with his family because he'd got a disabled child. And so we talked a lot about what that would mean in terms of growing his business. And within 12 months, his business had substantially increased in size, and he'd reduced the number of hours he was working, which meant he could spend more time with his family.
That's great. I mean, I've obviously heard the term mentioned a few times. It's working on your business rather than working in your business, very sometimes too hard, too many hours. So is that one of the concepts that you try to impart and pass on to your clients?
Yeah, so typically people will come to us either because they feel they're working too hard and they're not getting the rewards that they deserve, or because they're struggling to grow their business, and quite often they don't quite realize why. And both of those things are symptoms of people working too much in the business, doing the doing, and not taking enough time to step back. So if all of your client relationships depend on you as the business owner, then the size of the business is constrained by the number of relationships you can maintain. And if it depends on you and you start to grow the business, then you just end up working harder and harder. And so, the first thing that we try and do is find out why they set up the business in the first place, because sometimes they can't remember. Help them to create a vision of the future and what that means, not just in terms of a business plan, because you can get a business plan from your accountant, but in terms of the roles in your business. What are all of the things that need to be done, and who needs to do them? Because as the business owner, you don't need to do all this stuff. There's things that you want to do because that's what you love, and then there are other things that other people can do. And so we help them start putting a practical plan together to get from where they are now to where they would like to be. And quite often that involves learning to lead, recruiting the right people that share your values, creating a culture, and also learning to delegate, which is a huge problem for small business owners when they first start.
I think it depends at what stage that they're at as well, whether they've got a long time to retirement, or whether it's obviously around the corner. But I think with all businesses, they need to have a team around them that can do, if you like, the work without the business owner being directly involved. And maybe that is going to take a period of time to, if you like, come away from. But that has got to be, I would imagine, the goal for a lot of business owners. They love what they do, but it is going to come a time where they need to either step back from the business and also let people in the business carry on that work for them. And again, whether that's going to be through a management buyout, or whether it's going to be selling the business. So there is probably, and you can tell me more about this, but there must be so many different scenarios that you need to prepare a business for, other than just growing the business to the successful sort of results that the business owner is looking for.
Well, I think the fundamental thing is that the things that make your business more valuable are also the things that give you more time, and make your business more money. And so whether somebody's in the early stages of growing their business and they're perhaps a serial entrepreneur and they want to grow through acquisition or licensing or so on, or whether they're in later stages and they're starting to think about either handing on to the next generation, or, as you say, management buyouts, or their business is their pension, then the same theme is true. If we can get you out of the day-to-day to start thinking about the long-term future and guiding the business in that way, then the business is more valuable if you want to sell. You're able to take advantage of an offer. If somebody comes along tomorrow and wants to buy your business, then you know you're going to get good value for it. But it's the other thing that people like is being able to leave a legacy. So this is how my business is. This is the culture, this is the values, and this is what I want to leave behind.
Yeah, I think you're right. I've had these discussions myself recently, and I think that the legacy issue in particular is something I'm paying a lot more attention to, because it's very important for me personally to pass on a legacy, but also make sure that the clients I look after now will be looked after very well, and also with the same care, if you like, and attention that I've been used to providing. So I think that sometimes, is that something, do you think, that business owners don't always recognize? Because I think, as society, it's always push, grow. But I think sometimes it gets to a point, it's much bigger than that. I don't know what your experiences are with it. So
I suppose each person's motivated by different things, aren't they? And some people will have family reasons and want to hand over to their family. Some people, like you, will care about their customers and be sat there thinking, well, how do we manage this when I retire, because I want the customers to carry on with that service. And other people are out there wanting to create some wealth so that they can retire and live on a great big yacht and sail around the Caribbean.
But it's nice to hear from you that wherever the sort of goals are, you can help them achieve those.
Yeah.
So if you was to describe your ideal client, what would that look, or what would they look like?
So that it would be a successful owner-managed business, established for a few years, say maybe 3 years or more, between 5 and 50 people. And we're it doesn't really matter what the sector is, because I said what we're about is teaching people to, you're the subject expert in your business. I'm not going to teach you how to be an IFA, but the business owner being good at their business, we're there to help them become good at running a business. So sector's not that important, but I just love working with engineers and technology and those sorts of places where process and attention to detail are important is where I'm happiest.
It's strange, even to this day, I still feel more at ease and comfortable working with other engineers.
Yeah.
And I think I just find it easier to explain things because I know that they're able to follow it without too much difficulties. Not to say that obviously other people are not, but I think it's just a question of that. Probably the way I explain things is more perhaps in an engineering structured sort of way, and therefore it's easiest to impart obviously my expertise and knowledge, and easier for them to understand. I think we all relate to different industries anyway, don't we, and different people.
Yeah. One of the things that we do with our clients is we look at the behavioural preferences is the way to describe it. So different personality types, if you like. It's a little bit more complicated than that. And the value that we can add to the clients is helping them to understand themselves, how they prefer to behave. Are they detailed people, or are they big picture people? Are they fast-paced or slow-paced? Are they extrovert, introvert? And the combination of those things means that it will, if they understand themselves and they understand the other people in the team, they can understand where there's conflict and how they can adapt the way that they communicate to smooth over those conflicts. But there's this myth that a salesman has to be outgoing and hail fellow well met and whatever. But in fact, if you're trying to sell to people like us, then you need somebody like us, because people buy from people that they know, like, and trust. And that's. So in terms of my business, I'm looking for people that like me, that process is important. We're not out there. We're not sort of life and soul of the party. We're more thoughtful and think about things a little bit more deeply, and so that we're going to get on. It's going to be easier for me to work with them, and it's going to be easier for them to relate to me as well.
I think it's with experience. As you know, I've been doing this for over 30 years, so you will come across all different types of people over those years, all have different personalities. And I think what you do, and through that sort of time and process, that you will learn to be able to deal with most people and deal with them very well. So I think that I'm sure you will experience this, the more that you do this, is that you will learn a lot more, one, about people, but you're also learning as well about yourself.
Oh yes.
So I think on that subject, or on that topic, should we say, what have you learned, and what have you sort of gained from the time that you've started being a business coach?
So I suppose the first thing was that during my training, one of the studies that we do is motivators, workplace motivators. It kind of gets to your underlying values, and it explained an awful lot about why I got into conflict with some of my colleagues back in my days of employment, because there were things that they would think was important. I think, why are they fussing about this? It's a carpet. Why do they care? And of course, they couldn't understand how I could work in such mess, and this is an underlying clash of our fundamental drivers. So that was really revealing. And the thing that came out for me was my overwhelming driver is about helping people and supporting people. And I thought, well, that just means that it's perfect for what I do. And the aesthetic one, it kind of explains why I used to have so many rows with my sales manager when we were working together.
I can relate to that, because I've had a few conflicts over the years with my corporate bosses, shall we say.
Yeah.
And for similar reasons. I think it's about your values and your beliefs sometimes are not always aligned with, obviously, either the people in your team, should we say, or in the business that you're at.
Yeah.
So I think that is where you are effectively your own boss. You can control that. I think that's one of the big pluses for me for running my own business, is that I work with the people I want to work with,
Yeah.
and the business is set up under my values, if you like, and my beliefs. And as a result of that, I try to make sure that everybody has that, or that the business reflects that, and anybody that works with me or in my team has similar values.
Yeah.
So obviously we've gone through, and we still are, through this pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
How has that changed business for you?
Well, it's been interesting actually. I mean, I've had my clients have been amazing. You know, they're in businesses which you could easily have said, "Oh, we'll just shut up shop and wait for it all to pass," but in fact, they've been very proactive and pivoted their business and actually growing through the pandemic. So I've changed from working with clients once a month or twice a month for half a day at a time to seeing them more often online for shorter periods of time. Which means that they get better service because the meetings are more frequent and more focused. It's really interesting when people start to relax that they forget that they can see you on Zoom. So some of the communication has actually been improved because people are not quite so on their guard, which is interesting. Although it is sometimes quite useful to be able to go to their premises to see what life is like, if they're constantly being interrupted, and what the environment's like. So I think post-lockdown, I'd still like to do quite a bit online because we're just able to spend more, not necessarily spend more time, but spend time with them more often.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think I'll still need to go face to face periodically just to get a feel for what the place is like and how the relationships are with the rest of the team.
I think you're right. I think the landscape of how we work has changed. I'm exactly the same. I spend a lot more time now on Zoom, and it works fine. I think where people have not used Zoom, for example, or whatever it might be previously, then we've had to, and therefore people have become more comfortable with it. And certainly when I'm taking on new clients, which I've done quite a few over the last month or so, then it's interesting to see what their preferences are in terms of how they want to work with me, whether it's face-to-face or whether it's purely on Zoom. Most people want a combination of the two. But I think, I'm sure this will be the same for you if you've not experienced it already, is where you can, as you said, you can spend more time with people. I mean, I've got clients all over the UK, so it would be nice sometimes where rather than driving 3 hours to somebody up in Milton Keynes, for example, we can have exactly the same conversation over Zoom, and we've both, if you like, saved time in terms of meeting.
It's extended the scope of where I can work and who I can work with. And you talk about Milton Keynes, and I've been networking here, there, and everywhere during lockdown.
Yeah.
And
You're a big networker, so it's
But I met a lady at a networking event, which ostensibly is based over that way somewhere. Bedford, Milton Keynes is where most people are from, and we got chatting, and we've been chatting for nearly 2 months before I discovered she lives in Porth. And we'd actually met at an FSB meeting 9 months ago.
Oh, right, okay. So it
Small
could be a
world.
neighbour of mine then.
Could well be, yes.
That's great. Yeah, I think with regards to the way that we are going to change and work, then it's going to be, I think I find it quite interesting. So although this has been a very difficult period, and it has been for many people, and obviously it's such a sad time for many people as well. I think it's been an opportunity to think about yourself and the business and what you want out of life, again, for both you and the business. And if you like, create that new path, if you like, that you want to travel from now onwards. So when you're dealing with your clients, are you finding the same? They've, if you like, reset the dial, and obviously they're now in a different direction than they would have been if the pandemic hadn't happened.
I think the one client, it's not changed that much because they're an animation company.
Right.
So it's been much more difficult from a creative point of view, working with people working from home. But the direction of the business, I think, is staying the same way. And other clients have adapted their business, and the changes that they've made will carry on into the future.
Yeah, I think I think I'm finding certainly then things are split into three, where people have more or less carried on as normal. Obviously, with within the restrictions, there's other people are just about managing, and obviously you've got a third of the population and it's really struggling.
Mm.
I hope obviously things get easier for those that are struggling, but I think it's definitely a sort of an opportunity or a time where we think about what you want out of life going forward.
Yeah, and I feel, for the people who've been furloughed for 3 or 4 months, it must be, really worrying for them, because I mean, it's one thing to decide to reduce your working hours and retire. It's another thing to be kind of trapped in your own house for 4 months, not able to go out,
Yeah, absolutely.
and not knowing whether you've got a future, and that must be really hard.
Now, I know you are a keen sailor.
I
I know
am.
you're a very good sailor, so it would be remiss of me if I didn't ask you about sailing.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that side of you.
So I took up sailing. I mean, when I left college, actually started sailing big boats, mainly on holidays in all sorts of nice warm places. The sun shines all of the time. And I took up dinghy sailing about 30 years ago. And I now sail a 14-foot sailing dinghy with my husband, and we travel all over the UK racing, and sort of reasonably successful at times. The younger people coming in are sort of younger and fitter and doing very well. I've really missed that over the last sort of 9 months. We sort of just getting out of the winter season when it was just getting warm enough to sail, and then lockdown happened. So we've only just got back into it, and I'm really looking forward to going away next week to national championship events and seeing 100 of my closest friends and getting out on the water again.
Now, I've not you got some awards. I can see you've got something in the background, so it looks like a dragon.
Yep.
So you have to tell me what the story behind that dragon.
So this is the trophy for the Cardiff Harbour Authority Regatta from 2004, as it happens. And in the early days, after they first closed off the Cardiff Bay Barrage, the Harbour Authority were very keen to promote sailing events on the bay. And in those days, the original trophy was absolutely enormous. You wouldn't want to carry it home. But we were very lucky that we were given replicas to take home and keep permanently. So I'm rather proud of that one.
It's very eye-catching and certainly distinctive, and I actually like it very much.
Well, you can't have it, it's mine.
Okay, so if people want to work with you, Helen, where would they find you?
So the easiest way is to email hello@mustardadvisors.com. That's easy to remember.
It is.
Or they can connect with me and via LinkedIn. So I'm connected to you, so if they know
You
you,
are,
they'll be able to
yes.
find me.
Yeah, you have to put up on my post every day, so.
Yeah, and obviously you can share my phone number.
I
On the
will put all the
notes
links in the
afterwards.
show
Yeah.
notes later. So because my show is TT Wealth, then there's going to be a couple of money questions involved.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't mind. So a few questions I'd like to ask people is, what's the best financial advice you ever had, and what's the worst?
Well, I think for my family, saving has always been important. So we were encouraged to save from a very early age, and it was pressed upon me as soon as I came out of university. You must have a pension, and so that was almost the first thing that I had to do when I got a job, was to get myself a pension, and that's always stood me in good stead.
Oh, that's brilliant, because if you start a pension in your earlier years when you first start work, then it can make a huge difference towards the end, which we both know.
Yeah. I don't know whether I've been given any really bad advice.
Well,
I think
what's if you aren't giving bad advice, then what's the worst financial decision you've made?
I don't know.
Whether it's missing out on opportunities, or whether it's just you bought something and you wish you hadn't, or whatever it might be.
I can remember it being really challenging when I was starting work, mid-1980s, when the interest rates went up from 9% to 15%, and I'd taken on a mortgage. I'd maxed out what I could afford at 9%, and then over the next 6 months, the interest rates went up to 15%, and I suppose it prompted me to go and ask for a pay rise, which I never would have done otherwise.
Well, you've turned a negative into a positive then.
Yeah, but that was really hard, mid-1980s.
We bought a house at the same time, because I remember my first house, the interest rate was exactly 15.8%. Now, if you think about where it is now, then it's a huge difference.
Yeah, yeah.
And a last question from me. What does wealth mean to you?
It doesn't figure very high on my priority list. It's more a question of the lifestyle that I want to enjoy. I mean, Andrew and I love going sailing, we love cycling, we love walking, and being able to travel places and just have a comfortable lifestyle doing the things we enjoy is important. So we're never going to be millionaires, but it's all about financial security and financial independence, I think, for us.
I think for me, and again, I've had this conversation a number of times, and wealth is certainly not just about money. In fact, I think money is actually a smaller part of it, but it's wealth in all aspects of your life, whether it's in relationships, whether it's through family or health, lifestyle, whatever it might be. Yes, money is part of that to be able to allow you to do these other things, but it's not, for me, the most important part. It does give you freedom and choices. I think that's the difference.
Yeah, and it's freedom to do the things you want to do rather than having to worry about it. Yeah,
I totally agree. Helen, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I've really enjoyed our chat today, and I'm sure our listeners will as well. So catch up soon.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers.